You won a Magsaysay Award, you've been nominated to the Rajya Sabha, you won a Padma Shri, a Padma Bhushan, and this has really been in recognition of your work, primarily focusing on SEWA. Will you tell us about SEWA? What is SEWA, the Self-Employed Women's Association?
SEWA is a labor union of women workers who are engaged in the unorganized sector of the economy. All those who are home-based producers like artisans, piece rate workers, all those who are petty vendors, hawkers, all those who are providers of various kinds of services, and mainly it is manual labor. So those who are say agriculture workers, loaders, unloaders, head loaders, then construction workers, all those women who are producing say eatables and bidi and agarbatti or garments. So they are the self-employed. We call them self-employed. We don't call them informal sector or say marginal, because they are self-employed. So they are the members. We have about more than 40,000 membership in Gujarat, and in other states. We have SEWAs in 6 other states, and there the total membership comes to 100,000. We have what we call a strategy called joint action of labor and cooperatives.
Traditionally, one assumes that unions are something that are made up of employees, so that they can demand rights and fight for equitable wages and things from employers. And here you're really talking about self-employed people. So how have they organized themselves, and what kinds of issues are they battling for?
No, that is the question, that if we are talking of labor movement in our country, or I should say that in countries like ours, where most of the production of goods and of services is done through the self-employed sector, or you may call it unorganized sector. So unless they are brought into the mainstream of the labor movement, there is no sort of labor movement worth its name. Because in our country, 89% of employment generates from these 3 categories that I mentioned, which is self-employed, I may call it. So unless 89%, such a massive workforce, if they remain outside the purview of protective labor legislations or of social security schemes or welfare programs, then it is no labor movement worth its name. And today, as we see that labor unions or labor movement or say the labor department or the whole labor ministry, the government, the whole machinery of the labor ministry, right from ILO to the lowest level, they all are catering to the 11%, and which they call formal sector. And in the unorganized sector or self-employed sector, there is a very large number of women. Of course, as you know, that women's work is hardly recognized as work. But even then, now, according to my experience, I would say that more than about 60% must be women in the unorganized sector. So in the women's movement also of say our country, it is these women who should be playing a leading role in the women's movement. And these women are poor, illiterate, rural, but economically very active. So for them, we feel that the work issue is the most important issue as an entry point. Of course, I do recognize that work is not everything, but for them a major part of their daily life goes into work, and right from the childhood up to the old age. There have been some micro studies done, and the recent study that we got done through this National Commission says that in 2 villages of Maharashtra, we did a kind of a census and found that 30% are the families where women are the sole supporters, and about 35% families where women's contribution to the family income is more than 70%. So we find that a large number of women are, or I should say large number of families are female headed households. And in our tour program also we saw every group we asked that how many are the sole supporters, and we were surprised to find when they raised their hands. So one can generalize that the number of female headed households is increasing. More and more families are depending on the women's income. So that is why we say that any new program, new projects or schemes that are brought by the government, they should see that more and more cash income goes in the hands of women in the family, in poor families, because the income that goes in the woman's hand is, most of it is used for the upgrading of the basic necessities of the family. I mean, for roti kapda makan, it is being used. The whole attitude towards women is that she is either a wife, or she is a mother, or she is a homemaker.
But that is not quantifiable in financial terms, or is it?
So that is why, though she is earning, her earning is not recorded as earning. Her as she is working and she is saving the family expense at various points of expenditure, that is also not recorded. But she is always perceived as a mother. So at the policy level also, whenever they think of programs for women, then they usually think of that women are beneficiaries, or women are the objects of sort of pity or welfare. And even today also, so many of the state social welfare departments, they, as soon as you talk about women and helping them, so their idea is either destitute or widows or prostitutes. But they are not able to see such a large massive workforce who have been toiling every day in the fields, on the mountains, on the coastal line, in the homes, on the roads, in the mines. But they are such a big number, but still they are invisible. And every time they see them, they always perceive them as a mother. And in any group, then as they start giving a speech, then they will give either a speech on family planning, or that you must be that good mothers, or they just talk about alcoholism, that you must stop your husband from drinking, and you should be an ideal good housewife and keep nice food ready for him so that he doesn't have to go out. So this is the perception.
You have been now been nominated of the member of the Rajya Sabha for some years, and a recently concluded National Commission on the Problems of the Self-Employed Women. So you have in some senses experience at closer hand than you had previously the workings of government. Well, my first question really is, what have been the principal conclusions of this commission, and how optimistic are you that it will make a significant difference?
We worked very hard for 1.5 years, and we have produced quite a voluminous report. We have made more than about 100 recommendations, and the major ones that I would like to mention is, we have made two kinds of change in approaches. One is about labor laws. We learned that these labor laws, first of all, they do not apply to these kinds of workers. Secondly, that even if they want to apply, they can apply if they reinterpret the law in a more relevant way, but that they would not, because they also suffer from the invisibility of this. So there is so the present laws, whichever they are, mainly sort of Minimum Wages Act, then Contract Labor Abolition Act, then Interstate Migrant Labor Act, and Equal Remuneration Act. These are the 4 laws which directly apply to their lives and work. These laws, I am sorry to say, but are not implemented. There are genuine difficulties also. We do realize that there are genuine difficulties in applying them. But therefore we say that it is the workers who should be involved in implementation of laws.
To your experience in the Rajya Sabha, what has that been like?
A favorite has no friend. Uh, Everybody has been very nice to me, and then whenever I want to say something or I want to contribute, then I am always given my due regard to whatever I say. But as I do not belong to any party, so I don't have a label, so who would trust me? I do realize that limitation. But of course, I have learnt a lot.
What has been the principal thing you have learnt?
I think lobbying. I have seen the lobby myself, that what it is, everybody has been saying lobbying, so I have seen myself and sat in the lobby and have seen that how all these negotiations are done and how decisions are changed and how and then what is the voting pattern and all that I've learned. Whenever that someone is bringing a bill, so then how do they try to convince the other members by lobbying?
Have you been disillusioned by the process, perhaps?
To tell you frankly, the first week when I came, I was really dazed, and I was feeling that I am here in such a the highest place of power, and here the fate of millions of Indians are being, and I am a part of it and all that, and so much facilities and so much. So I was quite dazed. Then also I was quite dazed by listening to the various famous speakers, orators, and that all those big personalities about whom only we had seen pictures. So I saw them and talked with them face to face. That in a week's time, then suddenly I was struck with a kind of a depression. And I said that what am I doing? Is this my work? And is it that I can, that I am just listening to all these long speeches and I'm wasting my time or what? So I went back, then consulted my sisters in SEWA, and then they gave me again a mandate of 3 items. So I came with a mandate back. Then, then I put myself into the gear, and then since then I have been stimulated and I have made friends and I have learnt a lot.
You have managed to resist party political influences in your organization, an organization of this enormous size. Has this been a self-conscious decision? Have you come under pressures that you have had to fight against?
We have discussed this issue in SEWA a number of times, and we have come to a kind of so far a sort of a conclusion that being in the party, you get into a certain discipline, and then you are not able to make what you want to make, either you are not able to make the contribution that you want to make. While remaining outside, you are more free to evaluate the issue on its merits and then make your contribution. And I think the government has appreciated at our state level and also at the national level. I don't mean to say that we are not in politics in the broader sense of the word, because we are helping women in getting empowered, and that way we are changing the power balance, trying to change the power balance.
Do you feel you come up against sort of traditional notions of sort of male superiority within the family, and you're seen as going there and destabilizing sort of traditionally established relationships between men and women?
Men and women in the family, I may say no. Because I have observed that in the case of families of poor, in poor families, it is not a question of male-female power. From whatever extra source, that extra income comes in the family is welcome. So it is not a question of male-female. In the case of owning assets, that she is getting, for example, if SEWA member is getting a house, or she is helped to retrieve or recover her land which is mortgaged, and we make a condition that the land should be in her name. At that time the husband appears and he says that I am the head of the family, so it can't happen that in my lifetime that my wife would be the head of the family and would own the land. But then we try to explain that this whole scheme is for women, and we know only her, and it is she who has saved the money, and it is she who is taking the loan and taking a risk. So, so we would only give this benefit to the woman who is our member. So it will go in her name, and your name can be second name. So then he doesn't make such a big problem. It is at the block level, the government officials and all those middle class men. So who take objections, and who sort of bhadkao all the men that see the whole land scene is changing, and only the real problem comes when the woman, and it has happened in many cases of our group ladies' lives, that when she is enlightened in the real sense of the term, and then she knows that what are the inimical social forces, and she is able to see long further, and while her husband is wherever he was. So there they have a real family problem.
Dare I ask you what sort of your definition or description of the idealized role of the woman would be?
I do not know about idealized role, but I think that men and women should be able to coexist together, and without being afraid of each other. I think today the man's condition is also not good, because he also has to keep up a certain image. I think we may have such a society where there is choice, where there is several choices for every one of us. It may be man, woman, child, and we have to build up such a society.
How have you reacted to the sort of the Western feminist movements?
I have great regard for them, in fact, because I realize that they are result oriented. That is how their mind works, and whenever they take up an issue, they very honestly they go after it and achieve. I think what they lack is a broader perspective, and I think that society, maybe their problem is more because woman is perceived as an object.
And you don't think that's true in India?
I don't think so much, because here the problem, if you ask me, is that we are too much perceived as a mother and as a housewife and as an ideal wife. So there is a protection, of course, and then also there is a kind of a high regard for that role, yes, in the family and then in the society. But we also are not recognized as an individual, and that comes in the way of the progress of women, yes, individually and also as collectively.
Forgive the personal element of this question, but have you seen your own role as a woman evolve, and what have been your own struggles in your own life?
When I started working with the working class, my parents didn't like. They said that that we belong to such a high caste, and then are you mixing with this low caste, and is this a career? And for a long time, that my parents didn't like. But and then the husband that I married, for him also, that my parents were not very keen on that. But somehow, parents are that they being so loving, so then they reconcile themselves. But my husband's support has been very strong, and particularly in times of crisis, he is the best husband that I have got. Of course, not so much in day-to-day life, but he also of a very similar kind of thinking. He is a Gandhian. So he's an economist. So he helps me a lot, and full support from him. I think that in our society, if you don't have the support from the family, it is very difficult for the women to work, because then they have to struggle at home and then outside. I belong to quite a middle class family, so I also have to do housework and then also outside. But since last few years, I have been quite liberated from that also. I think that all those around me, all the relatives also have been very cooperative. But in the beginning, everybody said that you that you belong to such a family, and how can you do this kind of work at that time? There are many struggles, when you are a woman, you also have certain privileges and then advantages. But I, being in the labor unions, and that labor unions are the predominantly, it's a domain of men, and men who are rough, and that is, they consider that it's a qualification. And unfortunately, our men have not learned to work with women. Either they would want to see you as their kind of daughter or their younger sister, but for them to see us as an equal, it is very difficult for them. And we are also trained like that they are men, so their ego should be satisfied, and then get our work done somehow. So we also have to go through that process of learning to be able to talk with them and deal with them as an equal. And it is still very difficult. I find it even
You
today.
mentioned the advantages of being a woman. What might they be?
I think our society still has a basic regard for women. And for example, whenever I have been leading a strike or a satyagraha, then I have to deal with police officials, I have to deal with the government officials, or even with some of the gundas. But as soon as they have to deal with women, then automatically they see you as a mother or as a sister, and then you also respect them. So our men, if you respect them, then they are ready to give their head. And so women have learned to get their work done by respecting them or getting. But I think that is the advantage that I have experienced, and then see many of my colleagues have experienced. But they are not able to accept us as an equal, and that I think they will have to learn. Their own projections at the home are also reflected in the official work.
You mentioned Gandhiji. What aspects of Gandhiji's philosophy principally move and drive you today? There is this whole sort of dilemma of the lip service that we pay to Gandhiji, and yet we have not absorbed in any real sense his philosophy and vision of human beings and their relationships with society. What is it in Gandhiji's philosophy that moves and drives you?
He is very Indian. Secondly, he thinks of the total human being. Then he doesn't suffer from likes and dislikes, that those who are capitalists are bad and those who are working class are like gods. He has a very realistic view, and what I like the most is that he sees in everyone's soul there are good points, and we should try to touch and appeal the good qualities in the heart of the other, and the other may be the enemy or your friend or your colleague. Try to help them to take out and use their good qualities for the sake of the society. The other thing that I like, though it sounds very idealistic, but is his whole principle of trusteeship. That he says that the capitalist is the trustee of the capital. Same way, the labor is also the trustee of its labor, and the educated people are the trustee of their talents. But ultimately, we are all responsible to the society. So ultimately, everybody is equal, and all of us have to report and give our account to the society. So this kind of thinking, and I find it sort of practical, though it sounds idealistic, but it can be done, and if we really strive for it.
What is the underlying motive for that kind of altruism?
I think that the society is a homogeneous group where we need everybody to live together peacefully and with love. One may have more money or one may have less money. One may have more talent or one may have less talent. One may have a big house or one may have a small house. But of course, everybody's say basic need has to be satisfied. But he has not given so much emphasis on property or on
Material goods.
highest material. But it is the joining of hearts together where everybody is equal, and that is the society where one can live with peace, with love, and also non-violently.
Do you have a dream that that is possible and imminent? Are you optimistic?
I think so. I always think that when these unorganized get organized, and these are the workers or the working population who is in the centrality of our economy, and when there will be fair representation of them at every level of our policy making, our decision making bodies, then there will be representatives, so who will be tribals, who will be Harijans, there will be women, there will be rural, and then those decisions will be more relevant to our Indian society. Those decisions will be more human, and then a large number of the population will then prosper, and the laws will be different, policies will be different. I think the whole society will be different.